My name is Jeremy Olguin from Accessibility Resource Center, and we're going to talk to you why you should care about accessibility. We're going to start with Sandy, who's going to give you kind of an intro on some changes that have happened inside the office and kind of a 101 on what we do.
Okay. I'm Sandy Parsons. I'm the Director of Accessibility Resource Center, and I'm the Campus ADA Coordinator. ARC has a dual role in our view. We help students with disabilities coordinate their accommodations, figure out what they need to be successful in school, and then we help them liaison with instructors to make those accommodations happen. The other role we feel like we have is to support staff and instructors to help implement accommodations in a way that makes sense in the classroom and in a way that doesn't fundamentally alter your coursework. The other role we have at ARC is a new one for us, and as the ADA coordinator, we've expanded our scope of responsibility. So not only do we work with students, but we work with staff, faculty, and the public to help implement accommodations. So what that means is if a staff or a faculty has a disability and requires an accommodation to perform the essential functions of their job, they would also come to ARC, and we would help implement those accommodations in an employment setting. And then also in terms of the public, if we have an event on campus, if we have the CELT conference, for example, and somebody from the public is coming and requires an accommodation, that would also be coordinated through our office. So in a nutshell, why do we want you to care about accessibility? I'll give you 3 reasons. 1, because it makes sense. As an instructor, if you can create accessible documents ahead of time, then you're going to spend less time accommodating one student at a time, and you're going to be able to spend more time actually teaching. The second is because it's efficient. We can, at ARC, because Jeremy's kind of a star, can convert your materials and make them accessible. It's very, very time consuming and it's expensive. I think last year we spent nearly $30,000 converting instructional materials. We have lots of ideas how to spend that money in a way that would benefit the university. And the third reason is because it's the law. I try not to lead with that one. But you know, the ADA and the Rehabilitation Act, both Section 504 and 508, says that we need to do this. Information for people with disabilities in places of public accommodation, that's us, needs to be available at the same time it's available for all students. So that means on the first day of school, if you're an instructor and you hand out a syllabus and a course pack and you say, read this and tomorrow we're going to test you, if it's not accessible and Jeremy and his team need to convert it, then we've already created a disadvantage for the student. So that's where we are. Those are my 3 reasons why I want you to care about accessibility. And I'll turn it over to Jeremy because he's got the really cool stuff to tell you.
And the reason I want to talk to you about why you should care about accessibility is the students now are learning differently, and we need to evolve with them. And Accessibility Resources in this campus has made a large investment in educational software to help our students continue to progress through their educational career. One of the programs that we're using is Kurzweil 3000, which many of you have heard of, but maybe never seen actually how the students are using it to study. And they're using it in a number of different ways now that is fantastic all in itself. I'm going to run a little demo here. So if we scan a student's book, if it is in color, it's going to be in color. If it's black and white, it's going to be in black and white. The issue we run into, though, is sometimes we'll get inaccessible PDFs that have line strike-throughs, underlines, specs, and I'll show you some of those examples later. This is actually a clean, just sample text document. And what the students are using mostly inside of this software, originally, 10 years ago when it first started to become popular, it was just for reading.
Introduction by Alex Haley, General Editor. During the Gulf War in 1991, I found Internet football players getting ready for a big playoff game described the upcoming contest as a war. At the same time, I couldn't help but notice how some journalists reported the war as if it was a sporting event.
So as you can see, the students, what they're getting here, and this helps students through the whole spectrum of learning disability, ADD, ADHD, even psychiatric. That yellow background with the green floating text does something to attract the eye and makes the brain focus differently. So instead of wandering off to the sides, the student is now focusing on the green, and at the same time they're taking notes and they're absorbing information a little bit better. One other thing with the reading that we found helps out a little bit. And this is one of those things where you just never really think about it, but when you change it, you see a difference. When you add and change a color background and you get rid of that white glare, it does something inside the text. And again, it makes the eyes focus solely on the text when you get rid of that glare. So while the reader's going, this also makes it a little easier for someone to focus.
Event. I can even remember one journalist saying after the ground fighting brought the war near its close, it's over. All that remains is to see how high we run up the score.
It's a great paragraph to start with.
Great book, yeah.
That was a great paragraph to start with. So what we're teaching our students to do and how they're studying with this is after they read that paragraph, a lot of our students are adding in footnotes. Because it's one thing to read it and absorb the information, and it's one thing to process it. So now we have them process it. Every other paragraph I ask them to just write down 3 or 4 words. That kind of reminds you of the paragraph. And that's how they're using their study skills.
Study. In.
And what happens is you can close this and it will leave a little marker there. So now when the student opens and closes this later on, if they're studying the chapter, their little marks are going to be there. Next, what they do, or what we're teaching to do, is highlighters. And highlighters are just like they are in a book. You just drag over and they stay. The nice part about this is you can actually hover over and change the names of your highlighters. So the first one was main ideas, study for test, and then I didn't name the last 2, but you can name those whatever you want. So we're using multiple highlighters. I'm just going to highlight a few things up here. Excuse the silence. Okay. The one thing you can't do in a book that you can do here is you actually have the erase option to erase those highlights later. I mean, a lot of times you go too far and you need to erase. I'm just going to go across the top now. So it's actually translate. If you run into some foreign language inside of your textbook, you can highlight that, translate it over to English. Fun here. So let's say the word lightened.
Lightened.
You can click definition and it will pop up on screen. And how that's helping is our students that have had to go to multiple resources, the dictionary on paper or dictionary.com or somewhere else, now they're keeping everything internal inside the program. And from here, you can actually cut, copy, and paste. And so you could copy this, paste it into a footnote, and now you have that definition permanently in the book. So what some students are doing, and this is great, is faculty are giving vocabulary words. And so when they see those words inside of text, they're hitting that definition button, pasting it in there, so that way it's easier to get to when they're studying for their vocab terms. So that's a great way that you can be able to use this program. Pronunciations, synonyms, syllables. I got to say, anything in this program, and this is why we've taken it on, is customizable. From the voice to the reading speed to the size, colors, the way the highlighters show. Anything you see on here you can change, even the layout of the toolbars. So once somebody marks this up, footnotes, highlights, voice notes are interesting. You can actually paste that here. And some students are tape recording or digital recording their class. And so you can actually import and open a WAV file and include that inside of your chapter. So that way you can listen to your class lecture and then go back to reading your book. So you can hear your professor talk it out, make some notes, and keep going back and forth. And the last part is time to study. I highlighted, I marked it up, everything's ready, test time. What do? I go back and I look at every page and see what notes I made, what highlights I did. And that gets cumbersome. For a lot of our students with disabilities, to have to go to each page and say, I highlighted that for a reason, I don't know why, but I'm going to keep going back to it and just rereading everything is a time-consuming thing. What the program allows us to do is extract. And it's going to extract just the things that we highlighted or made notes on. Now that document's available. And so now the student can print that off, walk around with it, make it an audio file, and they have something to study with. So that is your quick demo of some of the things of what Kurzweil 3000 does. And our students are really taking advantage of all of the tools. The last thing that we're actually doing, and sorry, I skipped over this, is it actually acts as a word processor. Similar to Microsoft Word, minus the formatting. That's what I say. So you're not going to get your editing features and changing your borders and things like that. Yes?
Can I ask how expensive the program is?
Individually, if you were going to purchase it, it's about $1,250, $1,250.
It looks like a great thing to have for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's not affordable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you buy it university-wide, which is what we did,
Yeah.
they gave us a pretty decent price. Yeah.
Well, and this product is, it is commercially available, and as Jeremy always reminds me, is it was actually created as a K through 12 program. So my daughter is 15, she's a sophomore, and she doesn't have a disability, and she uses Kurzweil for some of her, honors English reading. And it's, because it is, I look at it and I go, dang, I wish I would have had that in my master's program, or it's just a great tool.
It's on the market as an educational software.
Yeah.
Everyone likes to relate it to being, part of the disabled community, but it's actually not. It's an educational software that we've actually adapted to work with our community. Kurzweil themselves, when you go to order, they don't put anywhere on there, like it's disability software. And no, it's an educational software, and that's why it can be used in any system here. And I'm going to go into that further and how we can continue to evolve that here on this campus. So with the writing tools, and this is the last thing I wanted to talk about here, because this is important. Our students, some of them just learn in an artistic way. You can't give them straight line, just a format where, here, type this, to draft out your paper. So with this, you can actually write out the ideas of your paper. I'm just going to do 4 of these here, if I can type correctly. And so these are the 4 things I want in my essay, or whatever it is. So inside of here, you can actually say, okay, I want to go from main idea to this one. I want to go here to here. I want to go here to here. And you can move these around. You can add in images. You can add in anything that you want. Separate text, separate notes, graphics, anything that's going to help you learn and tie into your paper. And with a click of a button, and this is great, builds your outline for you. So when professors want you to turn in an outline, but it's really hard for a student to get going on an outline and draft it in this form, you can do it in an artistic way. And then with the click of a button, now you have it in the format that your professor is going to want. And then for yourself, you can go side-by-side windows. And now you can start typing your paper while viewing your outline. So, great tool. And how this campus is using it now. And this is why we should care. The evolving on this campus is amazing with mobile technology. This program has also evolved with mobile technology, and we've taken advantage of that, and we've actually probably pushed the envelope a lot more than other schools have. We don't use CDs very much anymore to transfer information. This whole program is now completely 100% cloud-based, from download to transfer of information. So what I mean by that, so let's say we needed, let's do that extract again. So these are the notes I'm going to need for my class. What you can do now is you can file save to a library, and the library is your cloud. Every individual student has their own personal cloud. I'm going to throw it in this one here. This is our ARC testing folder. And let's just name it Notes. It's up in the cloud now. So now, anywhere you have internet access, you can access your files. So students that my laptop crashed, and we were running into that a lot. We'd lose licenses. Students would be freaking out borrowing our laptops where we didn't have any more. Now we can say, library's there, you can access your files, they're in the cloud. We completely negated that problem. iPads and iPhones have an app that's tied into the technology that you can actually access your files from. Androids play directly because they're Flash content, so Androids play them directly. And then any PC or Mac. Grabbing a friend's computer. So what we've been seeing now, and I saw this in the library the other day, is a student that uses this walked into their group session with nothing. And he said, oh, actually, I have some notes. And he went on the person's computer, pulled them up, showed everyone in his group, and it was like, that's how it should be used. That's perfect. I mean, all of his notes were saved. Everything was there. So let's just see, actually, if I didn't get kicked out yet. So I'm on the web right now. If I go to my private folder, you can see all the different documents that I have in here. So I'm going to pull up a fun one, also known as inaccessible documents, which is something that we need to show. Because all of this technology is great, but it doesn't help us if we're producing inaccessible documents on this campus. So what happens with a document like this is you see it's probably a 4th or 5th generation scan. So at that point, what you're seeing is specs behind every piece of text. And what the reader does with that is just absolutely butchers it. It doesn't know what it's saying. Sometimes it'll get it right, which is amazing, and I'm always happy about that. But most times, nothing good comes out of that. So that's one. It's got to transfer data. Second type, again, 3rd, 4th generation scan. And what's happening with this one is you see some of the letters are breaking up. So not only the specs, but you're going to start to see like the Y's and the I's starting to lose their direct shape. And so when that happens, again, reader breaks down. Can't do anything about it. Well, you can do something about it, and what my team does is we actually have to go in and retype it. And when we have to retype 3/4 of a course reader, that's 8 students not getting their materials within a 3-day period because we've had to spend, a week doing this. Again, same thing, specs. And this one is great. So again, late scan, but it was also turned in with underlines, markups that someone had done years ago. They have no relevance to what the text is now, but it's produced in a course reader. This was actually grabbed off of a Blackboard Learn site. So this is a PDF that was produced, through and put on Blackboard, which our students just love. They run in every day, and I got another one for you, and I got another one for you, and it happens, and we gotta understand that it happens, but we need to move on from this. And this one is my favorite. I mean, it's the 2-page scan flatbed, and so what happens there is the black mark's just right down the middle. I mean, even when we're trying to retype that, we're guessing on what it says. I mean, if we can't even read it, it's one of those things where I always say, what do you expect our disabled student to do with it if I can sit in front of it and I can't make it out? That's the point, is anyone, you just can't make it out. So when we're having to redo documents like this, again, it affects everyone, and that's why we should care. It's because it affects every single person, from the people working on it to the student who can't get their work done. They're delayed 3 days before they can read 1 page. And some of these classes on this campus move very quickly. Yeah.
What does the screen reader do when it gets to that?
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let's start here. Oh, that might read some of that okay, actually.
Northern tip of the Sea of Et Azov, and is entirely bare of trees, wild or cultivated. The next Greek legend beyond the Soramonte belongs to the Houdini, and is plentifully supplied with timber of all sorts.
It's actually survived plentiful there. That was pretty impressive. But
Northward again, the country uninhabited over the distance of a 7 days' journey, until by turning a little easterly one comes to the Visajedok, a distinct and humorous race which gets its living.
See, it's actually doing pretty well, but
These folk live alongside another tribe called Irsi, who, like them, are hunters, climb trees, of which there are many in the country.
see, it just skips certain words.
Skip
'cause
words, yeah.
Yeah, if it can't make it out, that's just what it's been doing. Yeah, so it's funny, certain sections, it'll read fine, but for the most part, I mean, this is actually a pretty decent one compared to some of the ones we've got where the black mark and then the text is turned sideways because you're holding the book flat, but 1 page is kind of angled. Those, again, are a retype. So that's how our campus is using Firefly. And that's what this piece of Kurzweil is called, is Firefly, to make everything mobile. And on your iPad and on your iPhone, the app is called Firefly. And it's just Firefly K3000. And what's nice is it maintains your highlights. in your notes. So if you did take notes on your PC or on your Mac, when you go to your app, all of your notes are still there, which was a big thing. When it first started, it was just for reading only, but now it actually holds your highlights. And the last part of what we are doing, brand new and fresh, is the world of testing. ARC testing has, I'm going to use the word exploded. That's probably a good word for it. Over the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 semesters. I mean, our numbers are just continuing to grow and grow and grow. And the issue that Sandy and I and other staff members have talked about is we have these students that are print disabled, validated, print disabled, and they're getting their textbooks and course materials and all of this in an alternate format. What about test exams? You know, they're studying with the supplemental aids, and then when we get the tests, we're having them just write off a paper. And it's like, some of them look at it and go, okay, you know, because that's just the way that they were used to taking it. But now we're doing everything with the help of the software built on directly into Kurzweil. And so I will pull up an example of that. And I just made a fun little short quiz for us. Some people in this room better pass this test. So what we're doing now is you can see the little question mark markups. And so we get the exams from the professor, hopefully with a couple of days. We ask for a couple of days, but we've been known to do it within hours if we can get it. And so this program can handle any type of question. Short answer, long answer, multiple choice, true and false, and even matching. And that's my favorite one to do. So what this helps is our students are no longer, I mean, the anxiety that it was causing to have to go and do things on paper, you know, it wasn't working out very well. We were noticing test times were extended. I mean, even with time and a half or double time, I mean, students were still like rushing through their exam right at the very end. And we just didn't feel they were getting everything out of it. So now we've actually noticed when they're taking their exams, and we've cut exam times down where the students are taking it at the same time as class is done, they're done. And it's like, wow, okay, so now the question comes, if we take this to the faculty, which we can, I can give every faculty a username. They can actually administer their own exams. Through Firefly, they can actually put it in the student's inbox. Have them take it, you know, in a quiet place inside, you know, either in the classroom, maybe an office, you know, wherever it is, at the same exact time as the class. It's possible. Or they can still have it taken through us, and they can just control the exam, and ARC will, at that point, just act as a facilitator and the proctor. That's it. They also have control to pull the exam out, which is the other part. You know, it's they can put it in the box, and they're worried about, okay, well, what if the student transfers it to everyone, you know, if they're taking it a little bit early? You control that, and you control your features. So anything you see on this top bar, you can get rid of everything. You can just have it read. And that's all really the student is allowed to have, you know, unless you say dictionary. But you can take off everything, and you can lock all the features to where when the student opens it up, all they're seeing is that read bar. That's it. So just to answer these, I won't have anyone answer the first one here, but just to show you, so what it can do is it'll actually read back.
1. Please describe the difference between being paraplegic and quadriplegic.
Didn't pronounce very well, but yeah. And so now this little box opens up, and this is an essay question. And you can type in, and you can keep going and going and going and going. Just because the box looks that size, you're not limited to that space. You can type in as much as you want. Do paragraph format, all of the above. Finish your answer, just hit OK. Anyone know this one? Blank %. Let's see. Let's have it read.
Percent of HS students will graduate with noise-induced hearing loss.
And that's % of high school students that will graduate with noise-induced hearing loss.
100.
At some point, it may get there. Sandy, answer?
I was looking at the girls. 12.
Oh, 12%. So the answer is 12%. So this is a short answer. So it's just a fill in the blank. Done. So now when you open it back up, you can change it. I put 12, but now it's 13 or whatever it is. You can hit OK and you're done. True and false works the same way. Now you have radio buttons. So 1 in 9 college students have a disability. True or false? True. Okay. And this one is just for you, Holly.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
This one is for Holly here.
4. Which expression is not a correct way to describe a student with disabilities? A. She is wheelchair bound. B. She uses a wheelchair. C. He is a person who is deaf. D. All correct.
And do we know what the not correct term to use when explaining? Holly, please take this one.
A, she's duct taped to a wheelchair. It's not correct.
It is
I always envision when I see that or hear that.
wheelchair bound is not an acceptable way to express somebody with a disability that is in a wheelchair. You are not, as Holly explains, you are not bound to your wheelchair by duct tape or anything else. So, yeah, there's the answer to that. And then fun, and this is very common in anthropology courses. I've noticed it in some English courses with vocab. Question 5 is matching the following. And so on the program, the student can just click and drag. Anyone know Richard Branson's disability? He is dyslexic. Stevie Wonder? Blind. Muhammad Ali? Parkinson's. Walt Disney? He is LD dyslexia. And Bruce Jenner? ADHD. So now the student can answer everything right there. And have it read back, hit OK, answers are saved. So what the proctor would do at this point, or the faculty member, do you want your exam questions? It's that same extract that I demonstrated earlier. Extract, notes, highlights. It will pull all the bubbles and give you your test answers. You can see it marks an X next to the ones that are true, false, multiple choice. And then it will number across and match up the ones on the cross match. Yeah.
The other thing for us that this does is when students' print disabilities were so significant, or when they had enough gumption to actually advocate for themselves, we would hire a reader to read the exams for them. And what this does is it takes that other person out of the room, and so the person, one, is more autonomous. They're getting to take a test just like everybody else, and two, we feel like there's more more integrity with the test when it's just themselves in the room rather than somebody else reading the test to them. I think there's always some, the human factor changes things, and so for us, and honestly, it reduced costs. We're not hiring people to read exams. So we're reducing the costs associated with providing accommodations.
One of the biggest complaints I kept hearing with testing is the readers were adding inflection to their voice, especially if they knew the answer, or we hired somebody that had taken the course, because they knew the material, it'd be easier for them to read. So what some of the students were saying was, yeah, they kind of gave that away, because you can hear like the dip in the voice, or being really loud with the correct answer, just because they kind of knew what it was. And so with this, it's kind of monotone. It's kind of straight through. I mean, it's not going to give you any kind of inflection unless there's an error on the reading. I mean, that's the only way that it's going to do that. So with this testing, I mean, we could really push this, and that's what has me excited. Is along with some of the tools inside of Blackboard Learn, and this, I mean, we're taking test taking to a whole new level on this campus. I mean, we can really push it, and giving faculty control of their own documents, and us just acting as a proctor and facilitator. I mean, that just helps so much. Yeah.
So can you help me understand where the big advantage for this using Firefly versus like Blackboard Learn? Because if the Blackboard Learn, if it's accessible, then a screen reader would be
Right.
able to.
Yeah. This isn't for our screen reader students. This is actually for our print disabled students. So, I mean, the students that just need to have it read back, that don't know how to use like a JAWS or something like that. The JAWS voice is really tough to use, and training someone with a learning disability to use JAWS to run through something. I mean, the learning curve on that. So this is mostly our learning disabled students that are using this, and so that's where, I mean, they can highlight, and just like stop, read it again, read it again, read it again, read it again, and see it at the same time. It works out really well. And then the colors, they get used to seeing that green, and I'm telling you, there's something about that green when it's bouncing. It just does something to the eyes, and every student I've talked to, they just say, I like that green bouncing. It just keeps my face right there in front of the computer. So.
That's really good to know. Thank you.
So that is where we are pushing testing currently. And my last thing here is I just really wanted to talk to you, and unfortunately we're missing Lori Evans today. She's unable to be here. Is some personal stories. I mean, there's some things here that, I mean, these are all great tools and they're wonderful to show, but it's the effects that it has on our students. And Charlene and I have a student of ours. I'll use his first name. I was allowed to do that. His name is Patrick. And he was having just a nightmare of a time with exams and studying. I mean, first exam, I think it was first 3 exams, it was just instant fail. Like on paper, just couldn't even focus, couldn't do anything, couldn't get around. Now he comes into the office with swinging his headphones, like he knows, and he just comes in swinging his headphones around, sits down, plugs into the computer, starts clicking away, ready to go. And he's one of those ones that regular class time, he's done. You know, he can handle it that way. It's just having him try to do it on paper, that's not the way he learns. It's not the way he was studying, wasn't getting through anything. And he's vastly improved. I mean, he's telling us like, hey, I'm never going to be an A student. Like, that's just not me, but at least I feel where I am. You know, I should be where I am. And that's, you know, B, C level almost every time. And he's comfortable. I mean, he sits there comfortably and just click away, answer, 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 answer. And some of his faculty have been great. They're like, oh, don't even have him do the Scantron. Just do the extract, print it out, staple it to the test, and turn it back to me. Perfect. That works out great for us. That's one less thing for him to focus on, too. Because the anxiety it causes when you have the Scantron separate, now you're having to go back and fill in, like, okay, now I'm reading it multiple times. I'm not sure if this is going to be my correct answer. So that was something that, you know, this actually helps when, you know, the faculty buy into it and say, you know, just send me the extract or whatever it is. Or I'll have them take the test here. You know, those are all great things for us, and that would work really well. So with Patrick, it was just really great to see him, you know, start to excel and just be happy. I mean, you could see when he would come in for a test, I mean, he just was sad. I mean, he didn't even want to take the test. It was like, oh, here's another one I'm going to fail. Yeah, it was that whole look, and we didn't like that. None of us liked seeing that. So this has been a great revelation for him on the test-taking part. Yeah. So.
Question, I don't know if you have a number of students at Chico State that are being, I don't want to say labeled, but I guess you'll understand, as learning, having a learning disability is one part of the question. And the other part is how many faculty are affected and have come to know what you do here?
So do you have the first number, learning disabled students? That
we have about 800 or so students registered with our office, and about 42 or 3% have learning disabilities. The other very small percentage are deaf, blind. The other big populations that we work with, the emerging populations, are those with chronic medical conditions and those with mental illness. And as Jeremy said earlier, this particular tool we recommend based on somebody's functional limitations and not a diagnosis. So while it's incredibly useful for somebody with a learning disability, it's also useful for somebody whose medication side effects or mental illness or health condition impairs their ability to concentrate, read text, that sort of stuff. So this software educational system is kind of across disability spectrum. Then the other part of the question was how many faculty are using this sort of thing or who are registered with my office in terms of having disabilities.
I'd like to know both.
Oh, okay. Right now we have 35 staff and faculty that are receiving services from our office.
And as far as using this, 0. We have not pushed it yet. We have not pushed it yet.
Looking forward to that.
We're looking forward to it, especially with testing, but even with reading materials. I mean, it's easy enough to load it on Blackboard Learn. It would be just as easy to load it in one more place while you're at it.
Yeah.
You can put it in your student's cloud. It would just help. I mean, it's just a really quick thing to do, but no, we haven't pushed it yet. But to give an example, so I have 71 students, average of 4 faculty apiece. So on this campus, I mean, that's a large number to reach with our students. I mean, 71 students, 4 faculty apiece. It's a large population for us. So we're looking forward. We're looking forward to starting to push this out a little more. I think we were just really trying to fill out what the Firefly was going to look like and how it's going to be used. Now I think we're ready to start pushing that along with, Acrobat. And that's one of those things too. Is before you load something on, I mean, we want to help. I mean, we really do. And it's 5 clicks. 5 clicks make a huge difference. I can show you 5 clicks on Acrobat that at least give us, making it somewhat accessible. I mean, if you want to go further than that, great. But 5 clicks, and we have something that we can work with, and the student with a screen reader or learning disability can work with. And that's what I hope to be pushing, because this campus in about a week or 2 now is going to go to a full system of downloading on all the machines, and that's going to be interesting, because we're going to need training all across the board. I mean, not just faculty, staffs, departments, and that's Lori's piece, and that's the part where she's not here to speak about it, but I mean I can, because I'm the one that usually ends up having to help her with these situations, and it's her work day. I mean, there's times where someone will send her a document, and she wants to work right away on it, but she can't. I mean, it's something that she has to send to me because someone sent her an inaccessible PDF. And if I'm busy with something, by the time she gets it, it might be 3 o'clock. If she sent it to me at 10 o'clock in the morning, her day is done, and she can't really do much with it. And that happens I would say at least twice a week, at least. And that's really difficult. And she's expressed to us a number of times, how much she wants to just keep working on things, but she can't. I mean, she really can't. I mean, there's nothing she can do at that point. So that's why I said the culture needs to change inside the departments as well. I mean, we like to say faculty all the time, but it's really inside the departments as well. I mean, we're using the printers on campus and the scanners, and we're thinking, oh, I'm just going to scan it and shoot it right over, and it's going to save time. Or it's got a built-in OCR or something. That's what I've been told. Not all of them do. And even if it does, sometimes it does, it's not activated or it's not working. So culture change, shift. I mean, we have the Acrobat. We have the tools now. Let's get out there and actually help. And let's start showing how to do this. Because, I mean, people like Lori, and it's not just Lori. I mean, there's multiple people on this campus, or even a community member that wants a document. I mean, for our campus to say, we have all the tools, everyone knows how to do it inside of a department, we're ready to go. I mean, that would make all of us a little bit happier. I mean, and just to be able to see someone like Lori be able to get their work done whenever they want to, that to me, that's why we're here. I mean, that's why I work here. That's why I work on accessible materials, is because of that reason. I mean, I want to see everyone succeed, and I want to see everyone be able to do things with no bridges and blocks, I mean, if you will. I mean, just be able to go free-flowing with that. So that concludes our presentation. Unless you have any questions, thank you. So, yeah.
I guess I have one question.
Sure.
Being that this can be placed in the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
would that mean that all students could have, you mentioned all professors might be able to have access for testing, but could all students get access to it?
Yes.
That's exciting.
If we can get if we can get departments.
At target departments to start. Yeah.
Because I mean, we paid for, I think we have something like 900 licenses. I mean, it's some amazing number right now that we'll never touch just within our department. But if we wanted a full campus license, I mean, it's something like $6,500 or something like that for a university-wide license. Which, I mean, if we start getting people to use this more, we might be able to say like, hey, every department chip in. We have it. We could outfit every student with the software, just as easy. Yeah. And it's just a supplemental tool. I mean, we have our learning management. I mean, we have that. It's just, a supplemental aid. And why not? I mean, even for a faculty member to... So a great part about that testing or any document is if they have that microphone, that button there. I mean, it's easy to say, hey, on question 1, I made a mistake. Please switch this with that. Instead of the student going, what, that doesn't make sense. And the student and the faculty, realizes it, but they're taking it somewhere else, or they're reading off site. Like, they can add that in later and then resubmit it out to all their students. Please ignore this. Please ignore that. It's like having, your lecture continue past your lecture time. And that's what would be great.
Well, and the other thing is that in terms of instructors with disabilities or staff with disabilities, this software and lots of other toys that Jeremy has are being used for staff and faculty with disabilities, people with, carpal tunnel or, it's repetitive stress injuries, that sort of thing. Jeremy's setting them up with this and similar software programs so that they're able to have their students' papers downloaded onto their computer and then having it read to them and then having voice notes put into, rather than writing on the side of the margin their text comments or even grammatical areas. I think a couple faculty they're using voice to do grammar and editing and everything. And then they resubmit it to the student electronically. So it's, it's helping everybody.
Yeah.
It's just a good tool.
Yeah, we have a faculty member that's using a combination of Turnitin.com, along with their iPad and Adobe. I mean, they're just getting the PDF down, editing, marking up, boom. I mean, so the markup is easy. I mean, taking and then being able to talk out your voice notes, and then multiple highlighters, strike-throughs, underlines, bubbles, and then email, student, boom, boom, paper's done, go to Blackboard, test score, done. So, I mean, if you're not in front of your computer, you're not in front of Turnitin, now you have that iPad option. And I mean, being able to edit just directly from there, it's been great. It's another one of those barriers that we knocked down, and it's been fun.
One at a time.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Yeah.
what you do.
Yeah.